2, 1.
We're
live.
So you're already on camera.
Hey, how's it going?
You're
everybody?
not fooling anybody.
I know. It's kind of the point. We're back. Lunch with Jim and A.Ron.
Yeah, we had some rough issues. In fact, I'm still recovering.
Yeah, I'm still deathly afraid that I'm going to get ill.
Yeah,
sitting next to you in this room.
Yeah, I've learned two things. We cannot do any work while you're sick, and apparently we cannot do any work while I'm sick as well because you need a Howard Hughes style.
I do. I got a little Hughes in me.
That's what we need to do. We need to get a bunch of Viz Queen for those episodes. We just need to make a bubble around you, a tent.
Actually, I would prefer just to have that all the time. I wouldn't mind being the bubble boy.
Do the Tyvek suit with the full mask, and you can just talk to the respirator.
As long as it's inflated, then I'm happy.
Well, you can win. I hear you can win contests.
You can
cosplay contests like that.
You can win redundant VIP passes.
What? For those of you joining us, thanks for having lunch with us. We're actually just settling down from post lunch. We've been doing a lot of stuff this morning, talking about a lot of stuff. I was originally going to fry a turkey today on camera to extol the many benefits and how to do it in a safe and responsible fashion. It turns out we got ridiculously cold last week. It was like 18 degrees.
It was down in the single digits at one point. Overnight.
It's now 65, and like I'm not saying that the winds are high, but I think I saw a witch pedaling a bicycle out the window. It's like 40-mile-an-hour straight line winds and occasional rain. I'm not frying a turkey under those conditions.
Sure. I
would fry a turkey if it was Thanksgiving, and I would just kind of like observe it from a nearby window, but I'm not going to take $1,000 of the electrical equipment.
You're painting a really sad picture here of you observing someone frying a turkey for Thanksgiving out a window like you are Oliver Twist or something.
I've done that before, like on inclement weather. I'll set up the turkey fryer like 20 feet away from my house.
Oh, and let it fry itself.
I actually use binoculars to keep an eye on the thermometer, because that's the only thing. Once you put the turkey in, you just got to make sure it doesn't go over the rated temperature of the oil, and you're in like Flynn.
Wow.
So we could talk about frying turkey. I'm going to be doing one for real Thursday, come hell or high water.
I know nothing about frying turkey. I've never done it.
Other topic, I would like to maybe talk about the cereal podcast that I've dipped my toes in the water in the last week.
I did too.
And then I'm sure that we'll have comments and stuff, because that's what we usually do if this is your first time. We usually just kind of bullshit amongst ourselves on topics that we want to talk about, and we let some questions and stuff follows build up in the Q&A pool, which there should be a link on the window you're watching to enable that and to get in there, and you can actually submit questions and we can read them on air. So which of those seems more interesting, turkeys or cereal?
Let's go with turkeys.
Okay.
Because it's Thanksgiving almost.
When I say I fry a turkey, what's the first thing that you think of?
I think of the end product. I think of the turkey sitting on the table that we've all seen during movies, Thanksgiving movies.
Yeah.
That's what I think of immediately.
Okay.
I don't think of like the horrible process that it must be to make that delicious dinner.
Because a lot of times when I tell people I fry turkeys,
I actually think of the little booties on the end, on the feet.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't want to fry them
more
with those.
Specifically. That's
you
what
don't
I
want to
think
fry
of.
them with those.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like, they have two reactions. Number one, that seems incredibly unsafe.
Yes, it seems extraordinarily dangerous.
And two, it seems very unhealthy. Like deep frying a turkey, leave it to the fucking rednecks to figure out a way to take a low-fat poultry item and make it into a goddamn state fair food. Congratulations, you trailer park dwelling, high cholesterol having, Walmart scooter driving sons of bitches. And to which I say, fuck you and your elitism. And also, it can be safe, and it's not. I don't have the statistics about how healthy this version of preparing a turkey is versus another version, but you're not breading the turkey and literally saturating in oil.
Yeah.
The end result of the turkey is very, I'll go into the pro case first. Why do you want to fry a turkey instead of baking it? Number one bottleneck in any Thanksgiving kitchen is the oven.
Sure.
You gotta fucking make yams,
pies, and
beans casserole, stuffing, which I know a lot of people do inside a turkey. You've got to do all these things that you got to, and it's a huge bottleneck.
Sure.
If you take the turkey out of the picture and just say, I'm going to let some dude handle that, you don't, that frees up the oven for so many other things.
By some dude, you mean a pot of boiling oil on your
on
your oven top.
Exactly. And I'm not saying that women can't fry a turkey. I'm just saying that in my family,
seen Christmas Story, man.
In my family, dudes fry turkeys.
Yeah.
Because the women are inside cooking. And that's not, I sound sexist even saying that.
The way I've always seen it, because I watch a lot of Thanksgiving movies, apparently, the wife cooks the turkey and the husband carves the turkey.
See, that's what I'm getting at. This feels like a more
Midwestern tradition,
an even division of labor, because you can let the dudes go outside, drink beer, and fry turkey.
Okay,
and then the women folk can do the baking and stuff. Although
that's weird, because
still sounding sexist. I do make a mean yam. I'm part of that baking as well. I'm just saying that
shit, man, pumpkin pie is my favorite part of Thanksgiving.
So there's number one, it frees up the oven for more important things. Number two, it's more consistent. Like if you take a turkey and you get the oil the right temperature and you cook it for the prescribed time, which is about 3.5 minutes per pound, the turkey is going to turn out perfect every fucking time. You're going to have golden brown skin. It's going to be moist and delicious because you're not using dry heat. You're using oil to cook this thing.
You're not going to end up at a Chinese restaurant on Christmas Day.
You're not. No. Okay. No dog is going to come and steal this thing because they will be, it's be a horrific. Even dogs are smart enough to know you don't want to fuck around with 400 degree peanut oil.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the skin turns out nice and crispy. It's a good looking bird.
That's my favorite part of any bird, really. Chicken, turkey, whatever, is the skin.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where all the bad health stuff comes from.
If you're frying skin, I mean, I can't defend that. But on the other hand, I think
it tastes so good.
And think of the regular basting process where you're basting it with butter and stuff. I mean, you don't do that with the, You can. A lot of people do. I like a plain bird. And then, you can put condiments or whatever kind of rub on it. But some people use like a flavor injector, and there's like Cajun garlic butter or whatever. Who's making
a Cajun garlic butter turkey for Thanksgiving?
It's heretical, but it happens. I actually fried a turkey at 1 year at the place I used to work two times before I was working for Bald Move. That's confusing. I said, hey, I want to fry a turkey for our big Thanksgiving thing. And it quickly turned into a thing. Like 3 dudes brought in the rigs and we all fried turkeys. And there's one guy that was shooting it full of this Cajun shit. And I'm like, that ain't religion, brother. that ain't canonical. Get that out of here. But
no Thanksgiving I've ever heard of.
Yeah. I like the plain bird, but you can inject it with different flavors. And a lot of people, make little incisions and tuck garlic cloves in there, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The other advantage is it's extremely quick. I should have done this before, but I'm going to do a back of the envelope calculation. If you cook a 15-pound turkey at 3.5 minutes per, that's 52.5 minutes. You're going to have that turkey cooked to perfection. I always check it because you're supposed to get like 175 degrees at the thigh joint, I believe. I always have to look this up each year.
You're saying this is very easy, but then you're looking up shit and you're doing calculations.
You have to do that anyway, unless you want to. You have to know that your turkey is done, and you have to measure the stuff, unless you want to mess with salmonella. So this is not something you have to do in addition to the work. It's just something you have to do.
Okay.
I always check it, but in the 10 years I've done this for 10 years, and I've probably fried 17 birds. I've never had it come out and need like another couple of minutes. It just comes out. I check the thigh temperature, boom, it's good to go. I check the breast temperature, boom, it's good to go. So it's very quick. Here's a couple drawbacks. About the maximum size you can cook a bird is 15 pounds or so. A lot of times when you hear people get into trouble, number one, you're supposed to, and I recommend doing this for the first couple times, fill the pot that comes in your turkey frying kit. They're about $60-70 if you buy them at a hardware store. Fill it full of water where the line says it should be, because there's lines that says if it's a 12-pound bird, if it's a 16-pound bird, fill it where you think it should be, and then submerge the turkey and make sure the water does not come out the top. The water should be like a couple inches from the top. Obviously, I think a lot of people get the big jug of oil from Costco or Sam's Club. They fill the damn thing nearly full. It gets 400 degrees. It's like 50 degrees away from its flash point. They submerge the turkey.
They drop it in from 5 foot above.
No, they submerge the turkey, and then all of a sudden, you know, a gallon of hot peanut oil hits the flame, and you've got now a 20-foot flamethrower. And if you've cooked this in your garage, you're going to have a terrible time.
Or in your kitchen.
If you're doing this there should be nothing above you but stars or clouds or blue sky. The other disadvantage, so you can't cook a huge turkey, but what I've always done is when I've had need for a bigger than 15-pound turkey is I'll get turkey breasts, and you can cook those things up in like 15, 20 minutes. So I'll get the main bird cooked, take it out, wrap it in tin foil, let it rest, and then I'm just like dunking breasts. And I'm still done an hour and a half before you'd cook it take to cook a conventional turkey.
Okay.
Third drawback is it is, relatively speaking, less safe than putting a turkey in an oven and letting it sit there. However, if you're not an idiot and you're not lazy, it's relatively safe.
I'm not in that group that is not an idiot or not lazy.
Of course, the problem with that is most idiots don't know that they're idiots. So a couple things you can do to mitigate your danger. Like I said, test it out with water before you test it out with the full bird. Make sure you start with a dry turkey. The turkey should not be frozen and should be dry, because water and oil pop, and that's where you're going to get, you know, a lot of grease flying around. Make sure you use a thermometer on the oil and observe, like if you're using certain types of oil. They recommend peanut oil because it has an extremely high flash point. Of late, I've been using like the peanut oil blend that doesn't have as high a flash point, but I don't ever get my grease to like 400 degrees. I'm getting it to like 350. That's the ideal. That's the green range of my thermometer. And just make sure you always look at that thermometer. It should never get into the red zone, and then it won't you won't have a problem. The other thing is do a 4-step dunk. You get the turkey. You should wear gloves.
I think only Michael Jordan is qualified to do that.
You should the 15-pound turkey dunk.
Yeah.
And then you get Larry Bird to come in and do the 3-point turkey contest. But you do a 4-step dunk. You got your heavy glove. Hopefully it's leather. If you got one of those welder gauntlets, that works best. But I always go like leather glove and long sleeve. And you got this little hook on the turkey, and you dunk it in like 1/4 of the way. Let it sizzle, bring it out, wait 5 seconds, dunk it in halfway, let it sizzle, let it come out.
Cook all the water off.
What's it doing is it's cooking all the water off. You're not having the one big. And also, if you didn't follow the safety step of filling it for a while, you should see that, oh my God, I've got way too much oil in here, and you can abort the whole thing.
Yeah.
But then, when you finally get it, the top of the turkey should be just under the level, and then you just close the pot. And don't fuck with it for 50 minutes or so. Make sure that oil doesn't get into the danger zone, and pull it out when you're later. Turn off the burner and you're done. Again, don't cook it indoors. Don't cook it on your wooden patio. Don't cook it on any kind of underhang. Just keep it outdoors, and it's going to be fun. It's a great way. I forgot another drawback. You cannot cook it with stuffing inside. A turkey will not fry if it's got stuffing inside. And one thing you also know, which I think I forgot one year, is I actually fried a turkey with the gravy pouch and the neck and the innards inside of it, because I forgot to check that stuff. So you need to pull all that crap out. But yeah, frying turkey.
Don't fry a turkey naked either. That's really a key.
You do not want to Walter White it. An apron's not going to cut. I've never been burned, not even a little bit. I've done it a lot of times. It makes a very nice. I've had a lot of skeptic people make a backup bird because they're like, oh, you're going to fry a turkey. Okay, well, I'm going to do it in the oven like I always do. And I always put that bird to shame, because that bird is dry, or it's and mine is just always perfectly like automatic. It's like a turkey microwave, except for not shitty.
I think you've got, and far more dangerous. I think you've got a good reality series on your hands where you take a professional chef and a know-nothing nobody and have them both try to prepare the same dish with different methods, and then see which one is better. The chef always gets the harder method, obviously.
Sure.
So Gordon Ramsay
could make a better bird than I could fry, for sure.
Well, that's the real crux of the reality show.
Yeah.
Is that actually true?
Yeah. But I think, I mean, again, I'm not saying you can't make a better bird, and I've seen better, certainly visual presentations. Although I saw this new YouTube thing where they talk about how you should properly cut a turkey, and essentially you cut the legs off of it, and then you cut the breast along the breastbone, and you slice the whole thing off, and then you turn the breast around and slice it horizontally against the grain, so it's almost like tenderloin style cuts. And they laid it out on a board so it kind of vaguely resembled the shape of a turkey, and it looks awesome. I'm going to try that this year. But that's the thing, is like the presentation. If you've got the little paper feet and it's beautifully brown, you know, roasted, and everything's just so, and you've got the potatoes and the carrots and all that shit around there. You can probably do a better oven bird.
But why couldn't you do that with a fried turkey?
I don't know, because you're frying a fucking turkey. What are you going to make it fancy for? I'd not mention I lived in a trailer.
Fair enough.
It's just too pretentious. I'm going to carve with my pinky out too.
Yeah.
Sure. So there's my little dog and pony. I'm going to try to film me frying it this Thanksgiving, and maybe package something up as a little fun piece of content. I'm not promising, because again, the weather still might be shitty, but we'll see. So there's frying a turkey. Again, everybody watching live, feel free to use the Q&A app and ask questions. It says it's good to go. Am I doing something wrong here? Nope. So we talk about cereal.
Sure, why not?
What do you think of cereal? Should we talk about, because here's what I thought cereal was.
Okay.
I thought cereal was a fictional, like Law and Order style murder mystery, but it's kind of like an audio version of what the killing was supposed to be. A single in-depth look at a murder that you track in kind of more or less real time, and the twists and turns and who's innocent, who's guilty. And it was going to be this produced kind of gritty crime thing. Instead, what I got is a recognizably NPR-ish, in-depth look at a real case about a teenager who was accused of murdering his ex-girlfriend and is in prison right now, and has been in prison for what, 16 years?
Yeah, long time.
Because he's like in his early 30s and he was in high school. And an investigator who is going through and trying to look at this record, because there's some hinky things about it. The defense attorney didn't do everything exactly quite right, and
that defense attorney is now dead.
And that defense attorney is now dead, and also the prosecution's case rests entirely upon one guy's statement, who was arguably an accomplice to the murder, which I haven't finished the third episode.
Yeah, I've only heard the first one. So.
But it seems to me that this guy, the J fellow, who is the guy, the main state's witness, is at least an accomplice to murder. I mean, he helped bury a body, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. And then didn't tell anybody about it.
And I don't know whether, so I'm kind of curious about when we're going to find out more about that. So I was surprised to see that it was kind of the dry NPR style presentation. You're a fan of this. Yeah. But when I say like NPRification, when she walks into a cafe to interview somebody, you're going to hear a ding-a-ling-a-ling as the door open, and you're going to hear the shopkeeper, you know, talk about their biscuits or whatever, and then you're going to have a little bit of background noise from the cafe, and then she's going to have the conversation. You're also going to have weird music choices, like the cereal theme song. I think is just really weird. Like if the guy who did Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood scored an episode of Law and Order, this is what he'd come up with. Yeah,
I don't remember.
It's like elevator jazz, but not quite. But it's supposed to be like moody and minor chords. But I think the content is fantastic. If you can overlook the presentation, not a big fan of the.
I think the presentation is fantastic. We do not see eye to eye on this at all.
No, we do not.
I think the vast majority of the NPR stuff is really well done and really serves to put me in the atmosphere that they were in when they were interviewing the person, and that gets me more in the headspace of everybody involved. And I think that's a very good thing. And that's, you know, I don't want all my podcasts to just be X number of dudes talking into X number of microphones for 3 hours. Like, that's not what I necessarily want out of all my podcasts. And there are plenty of those out there. Well, so like when I hear something that is more NPR-ified, as you say, that to me is pushing forward the medium in a way that I like.
So, I mean, I kind of, when she's having a conversation with someone in a cafe, or when she's talking to him and he's on the jail phone line, I like the fact that you can tell that's what the locale is. You can hear background noise, and it sounds like a payphone conversation and all that. And I think that's fine. And I think the musical cues are fine. I think the musical cues on this are just not as what I need them to be, or what I wish them to be.
Okay.
But I also think that like stuff like Radiolab pushes the envelope of what I consider bearable. I think Radiolab is almost a parody of itself when it goes to locations, and they're in Bangkok and you just hear people talking in this language you don't understand, and you hear roosters in the background, and you hear mopeds going by, and it's like that's supposed to put us in location. But to me, that just it's almost offensive that you can boil down a locale on this earth to 3 seconds of audio, which is also playing to our expectations, because it's not like we're on the scene for insert third world country, and you're blown away by like how elegant and orchestrated everything is. It's just the same kind of, a goat is baaing, a chicken is clucking, somebody, someone's chanting something tribal in the distance. And it's just like, I don't feel like I'm now in wherever I'm supposed to be. I feel like I'm hearing what these producers think that I think this location should sound like. And they've got people scouring this bazaar or wherever they're at with microphones to capture that.
Well, maybe. So, okay, if that's the case, somebody went to that location. Somebody talked to those people. They know what it sounds like in that location. If they are, in fact, misrepresenting that location or boiling it down to a sound clip that's going to sound good for people who are listening, that's on the content producer's fault. That's not the format's fault. I feel like if you want to do that, you can certainly get it right. Like, look, I was on the scene. Here's what was happening. A goat was neighing in the background. There were a lot of people chattering on the street. There were mopeds going by. If that's the accurate fucking sound from the location, why are you not going to put that in there?
Well, goats neighing, I think, is just, that's a farmer, farmer in the Dell type of problem. I need to sit you down with one of those pull string things and find out what a goat actually sounds like.
Whatever they do,
they don't baa either. They scream, apparently, if I'm looking at YouTube.
And they lock up and fall over. But I like that stuff. To me, adds texture. It adds an aesthetic to the audio, which is really your only means of getting people into the location. You can't show them the location. You can't show them what was happening around them like you can in TV or something. Like, I wouldn't say it, like on TV, do you see it as superfluous when people like do the interview on site and you can see in the background all that shit? Like, that's my point. You don't. So why would you say that in audio?
No, I think it's stupid. I like whenever I see the local news and all three vans are outside.
Well, then you are in the minority, my friend, because there are 1,000 shows on television which film on location interviews, and that serves to get you in the spirit and get you in the mood. Like, look at any travel show.
Okay, travel show, that's fine, but that's and then there's
now now you got the interviewer going to a location, being immersed in the area, talking to these people, trying to figure out a story that is most often local to that area. Why are you not going to try to present the location in audio form? That just seems like
it's dumb. That's it.
It's not dumb. You just don't like it.
Like, for example,
you just don't like it. I think it's smart.
Something, Cincinnati CVG Airport announces they're going to open another jetway or something. You're going to have 4 local news stations with reporters set up on the top of the parking garage, shooting the airport in the background. I don't
NPR
give
is
a
not
shit.
News. NPR is not news. NPR is
no. I'm saying that's stupid.
Documentary. NPR is. It's telling a story. They're storytellers. You have to get someone immersed into the story in order for them to buy into the story.
So I guess that's part of the problem, is that we're now talking about the difference between news, entertainment, documentary, right? And I associate really high like Hollywood production values and documentaries with like Michael Moore, Morgan Spurlock, people that are trying to advocate a position and are doing so by making their side look awesome and tug on all the right, and the other side look ridiculous. And they use hyperbole and they exaggerate things. And then I look at, you know, what's his name, Herzog Warner, or the guy who did the house I grew up in, and it's a certain type of, it's, no one would say the production quality is low, but it's a lot more serious of a take. And I associate that with just the facts. And when I'm listening to Seriable, I find a mishmash between the Radiolab style production values and what I'm expecting from a sober retelling of these facts.
Okay.
And, yeah. And even like, I don't know.
But do you watch like C-SPAN? Because that's what you want. That's what you're requesting. Like, I want to see in real time the events unfold, because that's what Serial is. It's a podcast about this woman's journey to figure out what the hell's going on in this case.
Sure.
Do you want her to just dryly sit down and tell you, here's what I did, here's what happened, here's like the steps I took to get to this point? Like, that to me is very boring. And that doesn't equal a podcast that gets you into the story and really draws you in and makes you want to hear more.
It's possible that I am a weirdo, but I feel like that I would enjoy the podcast more, the Serial podcast more, if it was just her interviews and just her narrating and connecting the dots, and they lost the music, or maybe, I don't know, was less NPR-y with the music. And I don't really care about the local audio cues. I really don't. Again, I could be weird about that, and it's not off-put. I'm continuing to follow it, but I feel like, so a lot of this fascination with this podcast taps into like the O.J. Simpson trial, where everyone followed all the latest twists and turns. We got, you know, the case is presented this far, and then the defense comes, and then there's cross-examination, and everybody's twisting and turning, and, well, I think what happened, and my theory. And I feel like that this show does a good job of tapping in on that.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But, and even more so, because this is something that's happening years down the case. There's already a narrative, and now, like, you have a lot more control over making that as interesting as possible. And putting it forward in the most interesting possible way. And it's really tapped into something that a lot of people are interested in.
Yeah. And this is not just a podcast about the case. It's more importantly, I think, a podcast about this woman's journey to figure out the case. Because if it were just about the case, it'd be very easy to say, like, to come into a podcast and say, here are the facts on both sides.
Sure.
And I feel like it's less compelling there than if you take her personal journey to understanding this case and say, follow along with me, because I don't even know the outcome of this yet. You know, I feel like there's a little more value in that.
I wanted to read more interviews because it's been in our forums, which, well, I mean, I can talk about, it's
all over the internet. I've stayed away from all that shit.
And I think that's, and I started to get into the forums and look at some of these links, because there's a lot of people like the Bowman Shane, and I think D and a couple other, you know, regulars were in the forum. And I'm almost like, I can't talk about the forum yet, but fuck, everybody watching the show knows about the forums. It's probably on the forums. But I started looking at it, I'm like, oh, no, I haven't gotten into this. I need to bail out of this, because I feel... And then I need to catch up as quickly as possible, because it seems like this is kind of like Lost, where if you're watching it in real time, there's this huge community talking about this and that, and it's a real case, so people are doing independent research. You can find all that kind of stuff. But if you're behind, it's a minefield. Like, you know, when you're binge watching a season of Lost, you might be tempted at a certain point to go to the Lostopedia or whatever the Lost wiki is and start reading about a particular thing, but you will instantly get hit by later season spoilers, later that season spoilers, and it's just not worth it. So that's kind of how I'm approaching the show. But I think that there was talk of like making this a regular thing. Like,
it's a great basic idea.
Yeah.
Like, let's take an unsolved, like,
thousands of cases.
Yeah. Like, it might have been judged incorrectly, or, you know,
I mean, look at like MSNBC, you know, and the unsolved mysteries, all these shows that used to do 2 and 3 of these things a fucking week.
Yeah.
And a much less, it does, I tell you, it will ruin you for those type of shows. Because if you can think you can fully understand a murder mystery in a 48-minute produced part, this really blows that away.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know. I was expecting it to be fictionalized radio drama, and I got like super NPR documentary style.
Yeah, I was not expecting fiction. I was expecting.
So you'd read up more on it than I.
Yeah, I just heard about it in places, and everybody was like, "Oh, they're following a real case, and this is the lady's journey to discover it and understand it," which didn't sound super appealing to me.
Do you think that this might
the way
be
it's unfolding? I like it.
Do you think this might be a podcast that it could support a podcast community around it? I think that's an interesting thing because somebody actually pitched it to me that way. It's like, you guys ought to consider doing this as a Bald Move podcast where we'd actually consume the podcast and then.
Sure. If you're doing this in real time and you're along with, I mean, it obviously supports the community on Reddit and on the internet in general. So yeah, I think anything that has pique the interest of people enough to where they're talking about it, means people can get on microphones and talk about it.
Okay.
You know? Sure. I think that'd be a great idea.
So, I don't know whether I've screwed something up here and that people are unable to ask me questions or people just are not asking me questions because I got 0 questions.
Ask some questions.
Because I thought you could do that through the YouTube app. You could actually ask questions there, but maybe you can only see it. So maybe I shared the wrong link, and this should have been a Google Hangout link instead of a YouTube one. I don't know. It's like every time I think I've made the last fucking mistake on this audio presentation or these video presentations, I find a new one. But if you got some questions, you probably got 5 minutes before we bail on this thing. What else do you want to talk about, man?
Should we continue with the podcast theme? Talk about startup?
I have nothing good to say about startup. I'm so fucking tired of hearing about startup. That's my comment on startup. Oh, look at me trying to get a podcast network off the ground. I'm just some small little nobody. It started nothing. That has decades of experience and working with NPR and tons of professional contacts and press releases and magazines and newspapers are covering my. Fuck you.
I know nothing about business, and for 4 years I was a business editor.
Yes.
Like, fuck you. So we as
it's interesting information.
Truly independent podcasters have a natural tendency to call bullshit on this.
Sure.
I think a lot of people are buying into it and saying, "Oh, this guy branched out on his own. He's learning a lot." I think him showing his mistakes is a very good idea because that shows that he doesn't really know what he's doing.
Sure.
From the business side.
And I buy that, but he has so many fucking built-in advantages.
That's the thing. You can't ask some dude in the Midwest to do the same thing he's doing and get even 50 downloads a week.
Right.
Like nobody's going to give a shit.
You're not going to have Forbes with 3 podcasts in the can. You're not going to have Forbes writing an article. You're not going to have the New York Times. You're not going to get interviewed on NPR.
No.
With one podcast released. It's like you're just not going to have those advantages.
Yeah, he's not starting from the ground up. He's starting from the clouds up. Like he's already at the top of the game.
Right.
Now he's just going to do his own thing instead of having the NPR name behind him.
Exactly. Which is, I mean, again, there's lots of stuff to learn on that as far as business acumen and finding advertisers and stuff like that. Sure. I just hate the way it's being pitched as a, same thing. Like I was reading an article about the success of the new podcast entrepreneurs, and they're talking about like these 3 guys and what they have in common. They're talking about the guy who is on Startup, and they're talking about Mark Maron, and the guy wrote a paragraph like, Mark Maron was an unemployed comic whose only claim to fame was a frequent recurring spot on the Conan O'Brien show. And I'm like, oh, really?
That's it? That's
a couple million people tune in every night to get your platform. Yeah. And
it's a joke to us because we literally did start from nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. Nobody knew our names. Yeah. We had never done any of this shit
You're
before.
working at a medical, at a insurance adjustment company, writing software. I was writing software for a medical records company.
Yeah.
No contacts relevant to podcasting entertainment.
Absolutely nothing. And so when we see this shit, it's reflexive. I know. Yeah. But it's honest. I mean, shit. Those guys are starting from everything. We're starting from nothing.
Whoa, questions are actually working.
Oh, they are.
I'll take the first question from Tyler Watts.
Why are you guys such assholes when it comes to podcasting?
Says, don't think the questions are working. Myth busted, Tyler. They're actually working. Another question from Freddie C. Freddie Couples, veteran of several Lunch with Jim and A.Ron, says, all right, I'll start. Rap music fan, A.Ron, yay or nay? You drop a lot of references that might make you, whoa, I got to select this question, that might make it seem like you might be. Yeah, I'm kind of a musical omnivore. I like a damn near everything, and I'm especially attracted to like really intricate wordplay in my rap. I really appreciate a guy's ability to do the flow because I'm a mush mouth and I can never do that. But guys like Eminem, I think he's the one that always comes to mind right now. But I think a lot of people do not respect Lil Wayne. Although, you know, a guy who can bust out a line like real G's move in silence like lasagna can't be all bad. That's the kind of stuff I love. It's I just discovered Childish Gambino, which is Donald Glover, a couple weeks ago, and some of his stuff is just sick. And it's like nerdy pop culture references, which I also like. So yeah, I'm a big fan. I like a lot of independent label stuff, like Jurassic 5, Lyrics Born, Black Alicious. I'm a big fan of the music form. What about you, Jim?
I'm a fan of the more mainstream stuff.
You like Jay-Z?
I love Jay-Z, yeah.
Who else? Because I think
Eminem.
Maybe Eminem and Jay-Z are like the only rappers you listen to.
I mean, I'd listen to other stuff. Like I've listened to Lil Wayne. I've listened
Kanye.
I've listened to a lot of Kanye. I hate him as a human being, but
really,
yeah, he's an asshole through and through. I fucking hated his last album. His last album was a piece of shit.
Oh, you're so wrong.
Terrible.
So wrong.
Terrible.
You didn't listen to it. It's like
I listened to it twice and I hated it both times.
It's like scotch. You gotta force yourself into it before you start appreciating it.
Maybe. I don't know. I've listened to other stuff. Like I've listened to Black Alicious and I don't know. But nothing's really stuck. Like it seems like Eminem and Jay-Z are the people I listen to almost.
What is your favorite form of music? Because you got a really eclectic musical taste.
I do.
You're one of my musical taste makers.
Man, honestly. I fucking love blues, but I don't listen to it enough. Like I think as like an art form, blues is one of the most satisfying for me. But then my true musical love will always be like alternative rock, like kind of the grunge era stuff. Yeah, 90s, I mean, that's when I was
90s alt rock
teenager when that shit came out, and it really struck a chord with me. And like Smashing Pumpkins, Nirvana.
What are you gonna do when they start referring to the alt rock stations as the oldie stations?
I'll be like, all right. Oh, that's another thing that I fucking love. So I have a lot of musical taste from my dad, who was into like he was born in 1940, and he was a teenager when the doo-wop stuff was out in the 50s, and he was into all that. So growing up, I heard just a ton of that stuff. I really like that stuff. I like pretty much the 50s, the 70s, and the 90s are where most of my musical loves are. Like Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, that shit. I love it. Love it. Like those are the only albums that I will like just put on and listen to.
Sure.
Don't do that often. I didn't really do that. I did that a little bit in the 90s with some
like
grunge
Hendrix.
stuff.
I have a lot of. I don't get down to Stones, Zeppelin,
the Doors.
Doors I actually do like. And I had an interesting experience where my buddy of mine had me over to drink, expressly to drink, which is always fun. And he started putting on like a real album, and he's like a big fan of vinyl. And you know me, like I'm a technophile, so I'm like, he's talking, he's like, look, I'm like, I think it's bullshit, man. Like, look, Josh, I think this is bullshit. These records don't sound as good as even an MP3, let alone a CD. And he's like, just listen to the warmth, listen to all that. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
The sound of the room they're recorded in. Yeah.
And he actually happened to have Florence and the Machine's Lungs, which I'm intimately familiar with. So he's like, so he puts it on, and it's got a little bit of hiss and a little bit of a pop, like every couple seconds.
It's gonna sound a little bad.
But I'll say that the advantage of the record player is you sit and listen to the album in a way that you're
not going to skip tracks.
You don't. You're not.
Fuck that.
You're not
going to
put
stuff.
You're not going to put it on random and just have it do whatever. And it's an interesting listening experience because you don't usually do that. And he put on some like old Doors, I forget what I think it was like Eric Clapton's band was called the
Cream?
Band, or is it Cream? There was another one called the Band, and I'm not sure who it was the backing for. But like he's got all these obscure stuff, and I was just listening to it, and it's just kind of an interesting experience. But no, I don't like Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think you have to get high and listen to Zeppelin or Floyd before you're 30. And if you don't, it's like I never went to Disney World. So people are like, oh, Disney World's so much fun. I'm like, Disney World's bullshit. I'd rather go to like the Bahamas if I'm going to drop that kind of cash.
Yeah, I went to Disney World as a kid. Disney World and Disneyland. I didn't care for either of them that much.
Anything else to say on music? Because I kind of cut you off.
No, it's fine. Classic rock, alternative / grunge, and old 50s stuff and blues. That's where I'm at.
All right. Tyler comes back and says, if you guys have time, are there any plans for non-TV based political, social, personal goof off podcasts in the future? Funny you should ask.
I think you're watching it right now, honestly.
No, we do. So if you guys don't know, Personal Arrogance, our buddies, went off the air at episode 220.
Yeah.
And they had a personal, social, entertainment goof off podcast. And there is talk sometime in 2015 of resurrecting kind of that show where we'll be recurring, like a rotation between me, you, Eric, Jesse, and Levi, all good buddies of ours, where we get together and we talk about different topics, and it's probably going to be like bi-weekly.
Yep.
But I don't have a release schedule or anything like that, but it's something I think everyone's interested in.
It's going to be produced by NPR.
It's going to Nina Totenberg will be our moderator.
And we're going to have a lot of sound effects in there. We're going to have springs going, boing, oing, oing. We're going to have oogas out the ass.
Ira Glass is going to get all our music lined up. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Tyler also asks, what do we think of the True Detective season 2 casting and plot synopsis?
So I think I've said before that I'm not thrilled with Vince Vaughn. I fucking hate Vince Vaughn on almost every level.
Did you see the photo that leaked of Matthew Flanagan, or what would a guy Colin Farrell?
Yeah,
he in his costume.
No,
he looks very, very 80s. Yeah,
very
it's
80s.
Like I feel like they've got the same kind of sensibility nailed down as far as the look and feel of it.
Huh?
But I have,
okay.
I don't like the thing that's got me the most worried, other than this guy's sophomore outing, and I don't know how in the hell you turn a story of that quality around in a single year. It's not a continuation; it's a brand new thing. Is that they're not going to have the same director do everything? Like, he's doing all the writing, but they're going to have is it Jeremy Lin? He's the Fast and Furious guy. He's going to do like the first 4, and then there's going to be another guy doing 2, and another guy doing 2. They're
having the director of Fast and Furious do this show.
He's done a lot of other stuff.
I would hope so.
That's actually, artistic. But
okay.
But no, I'm a little worried, not because I don't trust him, but because they don't have any continuity. And I think that's one of the special things that Corey Fukunaga just did everything. And it's a little bit less special. But I don't know. It could be just as good. It's going to be hard to be just as good, because that first season is awesome. It might be my favorite thing I've seen. We kicked around doing like an award show, and if we did, it would definitely be in the running for best show.
Yeah,
for me.
Yeah, probably so.
Freddie C said we should do a podcast on Dan Carlin's podcast. I don't know.
Hardcore history or
what would we say? Just how? Oh yeah, but it had to be hardcore history. But like let's say he gets done with his series on World War I.
That was awesome. Do another, man.
Yeah, like it's going to be the.
We have nothing to add to any of those conversations of value.
Yeah. We're just huge fans, and I love that stuff. It'd be an awesome topic for the forum. We ought to get in the other category, Dan, digesting Dan Carlin, we can call it. And we can all talk about how awesome he is and things we've learned. Let's see. Speaking of blues, have you guys, Freddie Couples asked, have you guys seen Lightning in a Bottle? Not even heard of it.
No. What is that? Does he elaborate, or is that
Nope.
just?
Maybe he will.
Okay.
I'll get the next question. Maybe you can come back for a double dip.
Yeah.
Jeremy Leavitz says, Jim, no shave November, man. Where's your beloved goatee?
It's not there.
I feel like I've got enough beard for both of us. I'm a one man, 2 man, no shave November.
There's a balance here. I mean, I had the goatee when he was a little less bearded, but he's absorbed all the hair in this office.
In the entire room.
Yeah.
I'm even recruiting some from my head and putting it down here. I'm not sure if that's
lightning in a bottle is a musical event that's going to happen in San Antonio, the ancestral homeland of the Chumash Nation. That can't be right.
No, I like it.
Memorial Day weekend.
I like it. Native American music.
Info.
Go out into the desert, smoke a little peyote.
There's a lot of camping. It's basically Burning Man, I think.
Oh, no. He elaborates. It's a one-night history of the blues produced by Martin Scorsese, basically a concert and blues doc. Is that the new thing that he's working on with Terrence Winter?
No, surely not.
Because that's the one about 70s rock, right? The culture and the scene and kind of slightly fictionalized, but also...
It is, but I don't think that's it. I don't know. No, I've never heard Lightning in a Bottle.
Scorsese has a lot of interest in that.
Yeah, I guess so.
So, all right. So that's about all for the questions. Next week we'll be back. We'll be putting up the Bald Move Christmas tree. We'll be decorating that puppy. We'll be taking more of your questions and answers.
When are we going to be back? Not the rest of this week, obviously.
Not the rest of this
week. Are we doing Monday, or are we doing the usual Thursday
Monday's
next week?
Packed. Well, Monday and Tuesday are packed. I'm thinking the Wednesday or Friday.
What? I thought we usually did this on Thursday.
No, I'm saying sometime between Wednesday and Friday. I'd like to mix.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to mix up the day we do it on a little bit too. I don't want to get in a Thursday rut. We got a Monday.
Don't want people to know when they're going to have a lunch with Jim and A.Ron coming out.
It's just impossible because right now we're catering to East Coast people with the lunch aspect of it. We're not hitting any international people, and depending on, I don't know, we need to move it around dates and times, is all I'm saying, just to get the majority of people a chance to participate live. Freddie says it's actually from 2004.
Yeah, so, I found it.
Okay.
With Scorsese involved. So
all right. Well, sounds like it might be up your alley, and you love documentaries.
Oh, I love them. I hope it has a lot of on-location interviews.
Was just roadies do it. Check 1, check 1, 2, check in the background.
Yep. A lot of goats.
And if every Van Halen concert in history had at least one goat.
Probably.
All right. Hey, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Until then, I'm A.Ron.
And I'm Jim.
Bye-bye.